Hey everyone, I'm Tanya, and this is Black Women Read reviews of books, zines, and everything in between. In March of this year, folks waited eagerly for Jordan Peele's new film, Us, to hit theaters. Audiences wondered if Peele would be able to follow up his critically acclaimed debut, Get Out, with another box office hit, or would he suffer from the sophomore curse? When Get Out was released in 2017, Peele swung the door back open for black directors interested in making thriller psychological films. While the concept of Get Out wasn't new, old school black films like Tales from the Hood tackled the evils of racism. Peele was able to articulate the horror of anti blackness, racial microaggressions, the failure of white progressives, and their jealousy, hatred of black culture in a quirky way for a new generation. So, there were high expectations for us. The film received mixed reviews and set off countless debates of what was the meaning behind the title, the symbolism in the film, and if it all made sense. These arguments found their way into my work office at the time. A couple of my coworkers felt that Peele had dropped the ball with the film, while others thought he did a decent job. They analyzed what was the message of the movie. The friendly banter went on for a while. However, it was my supervisor that gave me pause. I don't recall verbatim what she said, but basically the idea, whatever one feels about the film, Peele is providing space for black imagination. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. I thought about what my supervisor said as I read Ebony Elizabeth Thomas's The Dark Fantastic, Race and the Imagination from Harry Potter to the Hunger Games. Thomas is an expert on diversity in children's literature, a young adult novelist and fan fiction writer. In The Dark Fantastic, Thomas explores the genre of fantasy and how black youth aren't encouraged to delve deep into their imagination, and how even this world, when brought to the screen, black people are marginalized, subject to violence, or rendered silent. In the introduction, Thomas recalls the challenges of embracing her imagination in childhood. Thomas shared how her mother discouraged her from believing in magic or daydreaming of far-off lands. Her mother wasn't trying to be cruel, but thought she was protecting her daughter. The very real fear black parents have of their children being harmed out in the world, they often push practical thinking and no nonsense over reveling in fairy tales. Thomas writes, magic has long been under siege in my culture, social class, and hometown. The eldest daughter of an African American working class Detroit family, I was born in the late 1970s just as the fires of the civil rights era were smoldering to ashes. My mother was doing me a favor by letting me know that magic was inaccessible to me. The real world held trouble enough for young black girls, so there was no need for me to go off on a quest to seek it. I was warned against walking through metaphoric looking glasses, trained to be suspicious of magic rings, and assured that no gallant prince would ever come to my rescue. The existential concerns of our family, neighbors, and city left little room for Neverland's Middle Earths or fantasias. In order to survive, I had to face reality. Books were my ticket to the realm of the imagination, reading a welcome escape. Although I grew up in urban America during the height of the crack epidemic of the 1980s and 90s, my heart, mind, and soul were almost always somewhere else. In the realm of the fantastic, I found meaning, safety, catharsis, and hope. Though it eluded me, I needed magic. In the Dark Fantastic, Thomas states the importance of Black children seeing themselves reflected in the stories they read. She writes of the imagination gap, not so much on Black children's part. Children will pretend and make believe for ages to come, but rather the lack of available material for them to freely indulge in their imagination. Thomas notes, this imagination gap is caused in part by the lack of diversity in childhood and teen life depicted in books, televisions, and films. When youth grow up without seeing diverse images in the mirrors, windows, and doors of children's and young adult literature, they are confined to single stories about the world around them, and ultimately, the development of their imaginations is affected. Thomas examines four Black female characters in the Dark Fantastic. She discusses Gwen on the television show Merlin, Bonnie Bennett in The Vampire Diaries, and Hermione as Black in the Harry Potter series. However, it is her chapter on Rue from the Hunger Games that really stuck with me. In Lamentations of a Mockingjay, The Hunger Games Rue and Racial Innocence in the Dark Fantastic, Thomas recounts the hostility and racism of white fans of the Hunger Games books once it was discovered the beloved Rue character of the story was Black. Thomas details the nasty reactions to the fact that Rue would be played by a Black actress, despite the author of The Hunger Games stating she gave several clues that Rue was not white. Thomas shares comments from social media. Why does Rue have to be Black? Not gonna lie, kinda ruined the movie. Why did the producer make all the good characters Black? Shaking my head. Ugh, Rue's Black? I'm not watching. Call me racist, but when I found out Rue was Black, her death wasn't as sad. Hashtag, I hate myself. I was pumped about the Hunger Games until I learned that a Black girl was playing Rue. Since when has Rue been the N-word? The anger over a Black Rue highlights Thomas' idea of the Dark Fantastic. She states, the Dark Fantastic is my term for the role that racial difference plays in our fantastically storied imaginations. The idea that white readers of fantasy, superhero comics, horror, etc., often default to whiteness for all characters. The fact that white supremacist thought often preclude them from being able to accept Black people, even in made-up worlds. Thomas goes on in the chapter to analyze the importance of Rue's character in the Hunger Games, more so than Katniss. She writes, it is a scene where Thresh says to Katniss, just this time 12, for Rue. Can we just stop and talk about this for a minute? Thresh doesn't make an alliance. Thresh doesn't waste time liking Katniss. Thresh knows that either he must kill her or she must kill him for either one of them to win. But this is the only way he can repay her for protecting Rue when he couldn't. It's the only way he can repay her for honoring Rue when he couldn't. He honors her by sparing her friend, the girl who would have died for her. The revolution really doesn't start with Katniss. It starts with Rue. The Dark Fantastic was a fantastic read. Thomas makes so many excellent points regarding race and imagination in children's and young adult literature. It was actually hard to figure out what to focus on for this video, so I definitely recommend taking the time to read it on your own. Imagination is something that tends not to be nourished in Black youth, and for those who dare to cross over into the realms of mystical places, they are often met with limited or stereotypical images of themselves. It's up to us who are parents, caregivers, or educators to allow Black children to dream. The empowerment of imagination is an act of liberation. Thank you for listening, and I will see you at the next video.